across the globe. And so today we will have an interesting discussion about the importance of internationalization in startups, and of course with the focus on Austria. So I can see that all the panelists are there. Welcome to all of you. And yeah, so I will start with the first question, and actually I will start with Candice. Thank you for being with us. So the first question I'm going to ask is why international are so important in our dear Austrian startup ecosystem?
Yep. So thank you very much. Hi, Cam is my name. I know Isaac from like 10 years, over 10 years now. My first startup called What You Do was actually collaborating with Isaac on various directions. I had a great time there. Yeah, the thing is, put it into numbers, okay? So if you take a look, how many, or let's say the lack of specialized workers here in Austria, let's say engineers or software developers, if you just take a look at it, we're not able here in Austria to get enough people from schools, universities here in Austria into like this kind of position, jobs, and so on. So one thing is just if you put it into numbers, and it's like across various industries, we have a lack in terms of like specialized workers. So how can you solve this? For instance, by getting internationals from abroad to Austria. That's one thing. Okay. The second thing, though, which I think is even more important, is based more on the mindset. So the experience, the personal experience I've made throughout the last years with all the different startups I've been working with, is that diverse teams in terms of like age, gender, also culture, lead or perform at a larger scale, within the company. So I believe in this, and you can put it out in numbers as well. There are a lot of studies out there from different like consultancies and so on. Mixed teams can perform at higher level long term. Okay, so I think this is even more important issue. So if you are a founder yourself, you want to set up a company, I would strategically implement within like your strategy, how can I build up a diverse team? And there are a lot of people who tell you that they are trying a lot and so on, but they are not trying enough. Okay, I know a lot of founders myself. I know myself years ago, I was also like this. We're trying already enough to have like a mixed team, but that's not true. By getting internationals into your company, you can create this kind of diversity, which then again leads to higher performances. Okay, now because of Corona, and I mean for startups, it was quite usual to like work remote, but the extent now is much higher. So now, on the one hand, you want to get people here, to your company physically that work with you, but on the other hand, I believe, and what you are already seeing in the numbers, also throughout the next years, that the diversity will like increase, but not just because people coming here to Austria, moving here to Austria, but because you work even more with remote teams that are spread across the world. And this just doesn't relate to startups, but also like to bigger companies, SMEs, corporates, and so on. And that's what I see, and I believe in which direction we're going to head.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your sharing. Yeah, Cambis, founded a lot of startups, so he has a lot of experience, with this and international teams. So you can ask him, inputs on how you build your own business. And yeah, Paulina, what's your take on this? You came, from Poland, you're international as well, and you're part of the Startup Life program, which actually, help, those startup IZs, to match you. So what do you think on that?
Yeah, I definitely agree on all of this, what already can be said. It's very important, internationalization, and we see already it's still happening. However, we have to put more emphasis on that, and we've seen also like a lot of startups still they have the mindset a bit to stick to just to that region or the German-speaking countries, and yeah, the international team helps even to expand, because if we have a start, like if a team is international, like I'm coming from Poland, from France, then it's also that easier to enter those markets afterwards, because you get the first partners from your team. Yeah, the language they are speaking, this is a huge advantage. And also exactly what can be said, that very diverse teams, the gender and also the different nationalities, they increase the productivity, and also they perform better. And this is also proven from many different statistics, like also they make better decisions altogether. So this is definitely and the direction to go. And of course now due to the corona, that we all of us we work remotely, actually doesn't matter if you sit in UK or in Brazil, you can still work for the company in Austria. So this is a huge advantage. You don't have to move, which is also costly, and also make a business it's easier with the partners, which you don't have to meet them face to face. You can just make calls, because now it's just such a popular and only the possibilities. So definitely, yeah.
Thank you, Paulina. Now I'm going to turn my attention to Beatrice. So hello, really nice to see you here. So as Leah mentioned in her introduction, so Beatrice was actually one of our intern that in our Empower Austria project that Isaac is running. So the idea, just for some of you who just rejoined. So the idea is to connect young talents across the globe with startups in Austria, and Beatrice was one of them. And Beatrice, I just wanted to ask you as an intro question. What are the skills you developed through your experience in the startup that you were in?
Okay, can you hear me?
Absolutely, yeah, really well.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Beatriz, as you already said. I was in Austria doing my internship during February and March, so I arrived in Portugal 2 weeks ago. It's very recent, and for me, it was a very nice experience to develop not only myself as a person, but also some soft and hard skills. When it comes to work, I was doing my internship in a cryptocurrency company, which is an area where I didn't know anything about. So first of all, I got to know a little bit more about that kind of theme, that kind of market, let's say, because it is. And for me, it was really nice, because even in Portugal, it was starting to be a topic. All over the world it is, but my friends had questions. They were curious about my internship and about what I was doing, and I find that very, very useful for me and for them. Also, to work in a multicultural environment, for me, even inside Austria, there are people from all over the world, and in Portugal that doesn't happen. There are only Portuguese and some foreigner people, but there are not many. So that was an advantage. Also, my CEO was Spanish. There was another Portuguese girl working with me and another Italian girl working there. So it was a multicultural environment. And for me, that was also nice. My internship was specifically in the business analytics part. So it's an area that I like, and I want to work on that on my future. And it was interesting for me to get to know a little bit more about that area. So specifically about my work, cryptocurrency knowledge and analytical skills, definitely the two most developed skills that I would point out. But besides that, I think when we are working in a team, there's always something that you learn, because people are different. There are different kinds of mindsets and different things that they value. Some of them are more independent, some of them need more help. So for me, that was interesting to get to know also. And I would point out that.
You can go on, sorry.
Okay. Well, I would say basically those are the main. Also, living in a different country and being in an international environment, it's also very challenging for me. So it's something that I would also point out to someone that is going to do an internship abroad, living in a different country with different people, being independent, manage your own money, let's say, and what you can do with it. For me, it was my first working experience when it comes to a proper job, let's say. So it's also important for youth to get an experience like that. If I would give my opinion, it's not something that youth is really looking for in its majority. I don't have many friends that just go and are not afraid to do that kind of experience, so they prefer to stay in their own country and look for alternatives there. So, but for me, that really doesn't make sense if you have the opportunity to go abroad. And yeah, that's it, I think.
Yes, I wanted to ask you a follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I'm not being part of ISEC. I'm always, curious to know is how was, the first 2 weeks, I would say. I'm asking because, of course, we are all more or less, student. So we study in a very structured environment, and a startup is exactly the opposite, because you need to find your way through, etc. So the question is, how was it for you to evolve in that very challenging environment?
Okay. So for me, the first 2 weeks were really busy because, for example, in the first week as a startup, I found out, obviously, I've never been in a startup in any kind of way involved in any project like a startup. But there are many things that need to be solved out. And in most of the times, everything is centralized in the CEO. At least right now, it was in the company that I was working at. And for example, in the first week, he had to do a trip to Spain, and I had all my clear steps to work on. But we need to understand that we need to adapt ourselves to the circumstances of the company, and we need to understand what the company needs by that time and why are we valuable assets. So the first 2 weeks were very important. The second week he was there with me, and it was very different. But in the first week was a mix of learn how to live alone in a country that it's not mine, and at the same time understand how is my work relevant and what am I doing, and get a little bit of routine in that matter. And then in the next week I was already with my CEO and with the other intern, and it was more, I was a little bit more used to that, let's say. But yeah, the first 2 weeks were tough, but still I learned a lot. I would say the first 2 weeks were where I learned more. Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you, Beatrice. Now I'm going to go back, to campus, and actually I'm going to jump up one of the conversation we had a couple of weeks ago, and I think that there is part of this conversation that I would like, to share, with the audience, and one of them was actually concerning the Austrian ecosystem, because we are talking a lot about the importance of internationalization. So you mentioned in terms of performance, diversity, mindset, etc. But the question I'm going to ask you, and I already asked you, is why Austria is making it, so hard, to bring international student, but to not bring international student.
So the thing is, you have to take a look historically at it. Okay, so imagine who is responsible, let's say, for the Rot-Weiß-Rot card, the red-white-red card, if you know it. It could be like for specialized employees, it could be like for startups and so on. So who is responsible for this? Okay, it's Magistrat. The Magistrat, so the administration, which is part of, let's say, the public. And the thing is, you have to imagine their goal, okay, within the last decades was always like to create jobs for Austrian in Austria. That's part of the mindset, okay? It's not getting people from abroad here, but creating jobs for Austrians in Austria. That's the mindset, okay? So this has been like going on for like decades. And now we see, okay, we have a lack of really good skilled employees from all over the world. That's what we need actually. If you take a look in all different ecosystems, if you have like an ecosystem, a job market, which is diverse in terms of like getting internationals on board, this could really prosper your like not only job growth, but your overall growth of the economy. Okay. But in the mindsets of all these magistrate, and I don't want to like say, okay, they're doing a bad job or so, but it's just part of like their let's say, their DNA, okay, which is not good for us, but that's a part of it. So that's why how can you like break this up? Okay, and I think it's just a matter of time. Maybe it's not fast enough, but it's a matter of time, because other people we know will join this magistrat, the public administration. I can see it like where I work with the economic chambers. What you can see the last 3-4 years, more and more people from the practical, side have been joining the organization, and you can see this something similar. Younger generations following up, and this will also change the mindset. Okay, but that's one of the main reasons, because historically it was always like the focus on it. Okay, and now imagine if you have like a crisis, a health crisis, then also economic crisis, like let's say because of Corona, COVID-19. Now it's putting the focus on like getting people from abroad, where like the unemployment rate here in Austria is still higher than before. In terms of like arguing, it's very difficult publicly. Okay, so think about this. Okay, this doesn't mean that's the right approach, but just think about it. So these two factors lead to what's going on. And the second, in my opinion, is because still, even if also on the public side, people from the practical side are joining them more and more, still there is not somehow like, it seems like, the experience shows me like within the last month, sometimes there's a missing link, between the administration and what's going on like in reality. Okay, so they don't always have like the in-depth overview what's going on, because they are not coming from the practical side. They haven't been like an entrepreneur themselves, or or running a company and so on. So sometimes there's a lack of knowledge how it's really going on in practice. Okay, again, I don't want to say okay that's a bad job what we're doing and so on, but there's a missing link. Okay, and this three main factors lead to the circumstances we have right now. But I think we have to change it. We have to work on it, not just talk about it, but like implement it. And I think because particularly on European level, happening just some weeks ago, a new declaration was like initiated by the European Union. One was like considering the startup nations standards, which like postulates to create a startup requirement in each country in the European Union that is prosperous for upcoming startup entrepreneurs. And it's not like that it's obligatory for Austria to implement all the suggestions there, but it gives a good basis and pushes, what we're doing here forward. So I'm good that we can like change it, but it takes time. That's how it is.
Yes, definitely. And maybe something that would interest equally, the audience is maybe describe a bit the project you're working on in order to change, that mindset.
Mm-hmm. So I have become the head of startup services at the Austrian Federal Economic Chamber last year, officially in December 2020. Before that, I've been an entrepreneur myself for 10 years, and we have started a new initiative called Startup Now, which you can see in the background, startupnow.at. It's still in German, okay, no English, sorry for that. We're working on this. But the goal is to, first of all, to strategically promote startups as a type of company within the chambers of commerce here in Austria stronger internally, but also like position their interests outside in front of all the ministries even stronger. Okay, this is the first time a position like this was created, but it shows what the direction is going on. And if you take a look within the last 5-10 years, particularly on the public side, new initiatives, new positions, new teams have been like founded, particularly for the topics of startups. Okay, it's not just all about startups, but that's what I'm responsible for. So the thing is to create like an environment to improve the current like ecosystem in every direction, meaning, okay, how can we capitalize much more capital in Austria, but also international capital, like for, let's say, startups in Austria. That's one thing. How can we like strengthen talent here in Austria by better entrepreneurship education, but also by getting people much easier from abroad here. Now, if you want to get someone from abroad, it can take up to 3 months. Why not somehow make it like less than 4 weeks until someone can really come here, maybe even less. Okay, these are the things we're working on. So this is something now I'm working on, which takes time. Some things can be implemented earlier, short term. Some things take more time, so long term. And I'm not the only one working on it, but the direction is clear. And so if you have like, let's say demands, if you have like suggestions, if you have something you want to talk about, I'm here to discuss on it.
Amazing. Now I will go back to Paulina. So Paulina, you have actually worked, for Startup Life for a long time now. You have seen, many people actually pitching, like the startup ideas, as crazy as you can be. But what important part, and actually Candice mentioned in his answer from the first question, is the importance of working in a team. So in Austria, we have the chance to have a very diverse environment. So I just wanted to know, from your side, what are the important skills an international team, should have in order to succeed, not only in the early stage, but as well, in the longer term of a startup.
Okay, great. So yes, that I think this diversity, it's really important. What we also notice that business angels, they more used to invest in startups which they don't have one founder, but they have like more than two, three founders and the team, which is already bigger, and not mostly like a diverse with female and male. This is something, the best combination actually, to have like this proportion, between male and female, because each of us brings different skills. And about the skills, of course, it's the leadership skills of the founder, as of course, and all those skills coming from to have like a perfect startup. It's marketing, IT, etc. And yeah, there are I think very important are now, more even than the hard skills like coding, there are soft skills actually, and the communication. I believe that the communication is a key, especially if we have a very diverse team, that the way how to communicate. And it's not only about the language which we speak, that we speak the same language as in English, for example, but it's also like understanding the cultural background of the person. So how the person reacts is sometimes because of the country they're coming from, So the very, very good communicational skills and the listening are crucial, to succeed for startup, like team in the startup.
Yeah, absolutely. I would jump on what you said. So we are talking about internationalization, but it can take, many, many different forms. And one of them, and I know that you're working on this, is female entrepreneurship and female empowerment. I just wanted to know from your side, what are the concrete activities you're doing in order to empower women to build their own businesses?
Yeah. I think it's the awareness that there is still lack, the female entrepreneurs and also female leaders in our society, and still there are the biases, that which are basically stepping women, female. And in the end, it's all about that, talking about it, supporting for different activities. We have many organizations like female founders who are like direct, like here in Austria, directing especially female founders to support them develop their projects. Also Female Factor, which I am working on, it's more also for the leaders, to give them master classes and especially network and support. I think it's all also about the environment. If women are together connecting and supporting each other, then we can raise by lifting each other. So I think this is something what is happening, and it's still developing. And we are, I think, in the good way. I think it's that still women, we are less confident than men. We started to be more confident when we are getting like over 40 years old. So this is something sometimes what blocks us the fear of starting your own company, you know. And that's why maybe once we are empowering each other, supporting also from men's side, and then we can see the increase, like that we increase the number of female founders.
And I would just jump up, quickly on Slido. So I just wanted to thank, everyone, for asking, your question. So I would just jump up, to Beatrice first. So one of the questions, we have is, what was the best thing about working in a startup?
Okay, for me, it was feeling that my work was being relevant, that the company needed something. I knew what kind of skills I had, and to feel like the people from the startup, the responsible people, the CEO and all the people that were responsible for our internship were trusting us, an important part for the startup. So feeling that all the things that I was doing, even if it was the first time, were being relevant and tracked and everything. I think for me it was the best thing, because one of the biggest fears I had was, I don't know if I have experience enough to be relevant in a big company or in a startup. So getting there and feeling that people were trusting my work and kind of guiding me, it was the best part for me, and it gives me also confidence in my work. So that was the best part.
Nice, perfect. I will go back to Cambis, because here, we have a question, from a certain Andre Dinu. Thank you so much, for interacting with us. And the question is for actually Cambis is, do you think that the changes of working styles, so due to COVID, so shifting more, towards remote work and home office, will help, the internationalization of the Austrian startup ecosystem?
Yep. A good point, a very good point. This is something I've been thinking about in the last couple of weeks. So I'm positive about it, that this is the way we are heading to right now. And the thing is, before COVID, work on remote for startups was quite usual. Okay, even here in Austria, and there are even like teams who are fully remote. Okay, also from here from Austria, who like have teams like all over the world. The thing is now, because of COVID, what you can see is like remote getting more mainstream. Okay, and what I believe is that it's not like that we will have like 100% of all companies in Austria or worldwide who are remote. I don't believe in this. Okay, I think it will be a combination though, where a lot of people on the employee side will demand, okay, I don't want to like always be like on site, but I want to like work like off site, or let's say remote. So this is something I see also like mainstream wise. And this changes a lot. Okay, this changes a lot. It can change like the salary cost structure. It can change the on-site premises of companies. It can change the mobility behavior of people overall, and meaning also that maybe we won't see like a relocation of all the people from the rural side into like urban areas anymore. Okay, I'm not saying that there won't be like some kind of mobilization here, but I believe it will get even more heterogeneous, and it will change. Okay, this is what I see. And because of all these factors, saying, okay, hey, I don't have to get people from somewhere right here. For some companies, because of the product and the industry, it's still important to have people on site. But because we're going even more into, let's say, the software, side, and getting more into the technological side, there's a very, very good chance that we will also see more diversity in terms of like having international employee workforce, not just on corporate level, but also on an SME level. This is something I see, and numbers already show, okay, that it can heads into this direction, but we will have like another 2, 3, 4 years until we can prove it.
From your perspective, it would make sense for some startups to take only remote interns.
Interns, you mean? So
interns, yeah.
Yes, I mean, from a startup level, from company level, from company perspective, it would make sense. But it depends on the goals you have. If you say the personal interaction with people is very important for you, and you want to get people on site as well, because you want to have this kind of personal interaction, that it could also make sense to get people, let's say also even interns, for like let's say an internship program like ISEC, on site like here to Austria. It can make sense. But if you say it's always like time limited, 3 months, maybe, yeah, maximum, then it would make sense from a, let's say, economical perspective to just say, okay, let's do it remote. But I think for a lot of interns, it's not just about working for a startup, but it's also like the location, the region. So a lot of interns, they want to go somewhere and see a new environment. So I'm not sure if that works out like from the intern perspective. But economically, it makes sense for companies, startups to go into this direction. But still, I think personal interaction is very important. And even if you use VR and AR elements, which will like increase in the next years, still, it's always like from a psychological point of view different if you have real personal physical interaction.
Perfect. Now we're not jumping on all the topics that we have discussed about. One important part is student organization. As you know, ISEC is an NGO and actually is helping students and young people overall to find job opportunities. And the next question I have, and maybe we can start maybe with Beatrix and then we go with Paulina, is what do you think is the importance of organization like ISEC in internationalization in that regard?
Okay, I can start. Also, because before coming to Austria to do my internship, I was also a member of the organization. So just the fact of providing that experience to youth, it's something that also develops leadership in them and also promotes the internationalization of the people that are there. I was saying some time ago that some of the people and some of my colleagues in university, they are not really curious about going abroad. They are curious when I talk about my experience and they ask me, oh, how was it and how blah blah blah. But when it comes to themselves go on an experience like that, they are not really interested on it. And I think ISEC promotes that adventurous spirit and international spirit in youth, and I think that's very important. And also because there are not many platforms that youth knows that provide that kind of information, or at least if they are, they don't reach their target, that it's a student, I would say, in their majority. So for me, I think the spread the knowledge and the opportunities itself is something very important that the organization gives to youth.
Paulina? So maybe I can reframe, the question is, what do you think is the role of organization like ISEC in in making the Austrian ecosystem more international?
Mm-hmm. I think it's for sure important, because I imagine it's way harder for any students just to come for internship to country, maybe on another side of the world when you live in Brazil, and just find internship for 3 months, So another thing is when you're coming to studying, and it's another thing when you're coming to work. So of course, I believe the ISEC brings the huge value, especially with the all infrastructure, that you have a mentor from ISEC who is there in Austria, gives you these tips like where to go, how to organize your documents and everything, and etc. So I believe in encourage more students to take this action and work abroad. It's like, and I believe like working abroad, it's like a first step. The same as like maybe with the studying, to really want to live abroad, or just getting this more international and the different culture, big background. So I think that's a huge role of ISEC, to bring more international students who are not only like about studying, but actually working, and also in the startup scene.
And for Convince, maybe I will reframe the question, because you actually had some interns from Isaac before. So I just wanted to know how those interns actually contributed to your business at that time.
Yeah, I mean, if you as an entrepreneur, as a startup, have strategically implemented that you want to have a diverse team, then collaborating with Isaac makes a lot of sense. That's what I meant. It's not just about talking, but about doing. And if you have it strategically implemented, then you're going to do it usually. And the thing was, what we could see is, like, first of all, depending on where they came from, what was their cultural background, they had a really hard working, let's say, characteristics. Okay, that was one thing. Okay, the second thing is because, and this is where culture comes into play, because depending on the country you're on, the culture you have been raised up, you tackle problems differently. Okay, and this can add to, let's say, your own perspective as a company, as a leader, and contribute positively. Not always the case, but sometimes it's the very case. So these two factors led to a good, very good, like, collaboration. Third, and you have to be very clear as well, because as an entrepreneur, you have to always take a look at the numbers as well, in terms of, like, the money you spent, the effort you spent, time and money, compared to the outcome. It was a very, let's say, win-win situation. Not for all, let's say, internships, and not for all companies, but overall it was a win-win situation. So these were the experiences we made. And let's say, getting back to number two, let's say you have like a problem and you want to make a solution on it. The different the people, let's say, the more diverse and different the backgrounds of the people are, the more differently you can, like, address a problem. And this helped, like, in the solution making in the end. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to come back actually to what you said, about internationalization. So that part of being, opening up, the word, working on policies. But from our side, from the Isaac perspective, of course, we are selling, those exchange program, and sometimes, we have companies or startups who are asking us, to find a German speaker. So I just wanted to know, what is your perspective on that?
My perspective or the others?
Your perspective.
Okay. So this depends on the position. If you are looking for a software developer, let's say, actually, as a startup, if you're very young, you're still looking more someone with seniority. Later on, if you grow, if you scale up, you go more into the mass and more into the quantitative numbers, and then you say, okay, it doesn't always have to be a senior, and then it could also be like junior. So it depends on the stage you are and the position you're looking for. Okay. And the thing is, what are usually startups looking for? A software engineer, software developer, or someone like in the sales department, so who makes sales. And if you have, like, some kind of business model, particularly in the B2B field, where it's about, like, talking and communicating with the clients, and your target clients are in Austria, Germany, and so on, and they're not that international always, then the language is a very important requirement. Okay. And third, particularly in terms of, like, marketing. Okay. So marketing meaning, it's particularly more on the marketing side, their language is not always that important if you are going into the direction of performance marketing. So cost per click, conversion funnels, and so on, data analytics. But if it goes into the direction of content marketing, where you have to create content, and your target group, even B2C, is more like German speaking, then having someone who doesn't speak the language, the German language, very well, will create, like, additional effort for you, because then you have to get someone who makes some kind of proofreading and so on. So depending on the position and the stage you are as a startup, that can be a challenge. Okay. Now you can see, sure, as a software developer, German language shouldn't be a requirement, because actually program is anyway, like, in English. And then also, if you talk about a startup per se, what is the characteristic of a startup usually? It's about scaling up, internationalization. Huh? And a lot of startups in Austria still, it seems like they don't have, like, the self-confidence to say from day one, I'm going international. And this means that you're not just addressing people in Austria or Germany, but in other markets. And then the language barrier might fall again. But depending on the region you are, you then don't need someone like speaking German, but someone who speaks French or Spanish and so on. So this is an issue, but it depends on the position and the stage to start with.
So you would recommend, from again, the Isaac perspective, you would recommend more, to then contact the late stage, startup, the ones that are growing and already, to expand.
What I would think about is like the position and the stage. So when you say, okay, later in the stage, then the language barrier usually will fall off. The more international the company, the easier. And then the position is also not important. But if you're working with startups in the early stage, then the position will be important. So software developer, less language barrier. But if it goes into like sales, higher language barrier. So I would take a look at the level of internationalization. Yep.
Okay, good. I took notes. Perfect. Then I will go back into Beatrice. Sorry. Yes, I just wanted to know, from your side. So you have been, part of this Empower Austria project, and I just wanted to know, how Isaac, actually facilitate that process between you and the startup.
But when it comes to the recruitment part or everything?
Everything from the recruitment part till the value delivery.
Okay, so it went everything very smoothly, and it was also very fast. My internship started in the beginning of February, and I knew that I was accepted in the middle of January, so I didn't have much time to get everything settled. And it were tough times due to COVID restrictions to go to another country and all that stuff. So Isaac played a huge role on that part, allowing me to go, giving me all the documents that are needed, also talking to the company at the same time. That it was like I was talking to the company, I was talking to Isaac, and the company and Isaac were communicating. So we were all in synchrony, let's say, and that was very important in that matter. Also, during my experience, they went with me to the first day of work. The CEO was there, were waiting for me, but Isaac went also to check if everything was clear, if everything that was predefined that I was going to have was there. So I really felt very safe and everything due to all my experience. But the recruitment part is also very crowded because we're very anxious to know if we get in, if not, what kind of skills were they looking for, and why we were not accepted in case of we were not accepted. So yeah, that was very, very interesting and very agile by Isaac and also by our part, and that was very nice.
In that sense, feedback is very crucial. Coming back to you, Paulina. So hearing, what Beatrice, was saying, like about her experience. What kind of role, those experiences, those cross-cultural experiences. So what kind of role those experiences are playing into shaping the entrepreneurs of tomorrow? How important it is?
Once more, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I understood your question.
No, don't worry. So I can formulate. So Beatrice was saying, that she learned, a lot of different things during her internship, personally and professionally. And so my question was, how important those kind of experiences are into the development of entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. I can say it also from my own experience, because when I came to Startup Life, actually it was like one of my first jobs after universities. And well, this is like you learn almost everything, like actually how the company is working. So you learn a bit like event management, and then you learn about each of the part, so then you really see how the startup it's really working, and then at first you get this overall knowledge and also this network, which is super important. And you can always decide, wow, this is something what I would love to work, because in the end startups are especially at the beginning, pretty chaotic. They're not so much structured, and not everyone is good for that. Yeah, I would just say, like, some people, they just need a job from 9 to 5 and just, you know, having a structure to know where to how to work. But if you already feel like, wow, this is, I have idea and I would like to work on it, starting and having some internship in the startup, it gives you just the first hint that this is something what inspires me, what I want to work like that. So definitely this is the way to go.
Yeah, thank you so much. Then there's still a couple of minutes left. And I will then, you know, close, you know, a bit, you know, this panel by asking, you know, our last questions. And the first one is actually, you know, for Beatrice. Now that you have, you know, this experience, you know, in ISEC, you have been part of Empower Austria. How much would you recommend this experience, you know, to any internationals who would come here in Austria for an internship?
I would, of course, recommend, but it depends on what people are looking for. I think if people are looking for something that challenges them, that makes her discover things that they are good, what they like to do, to be part of the creation of a business, let's say, that's what I felt, at least in my internship. I would say go for it. But I think you have to have the right mindset, and that's very important, because when you go work with in anywhere, in fact, but if you go to a startup, you need to know what you're looking for and what's the stage of the company, and you have to understand that everything that the company needs, it's not going to turn around you, you know. You're not it's not that you're not a priority, it's just the company needs to ensure that they are going to succeed, that they are going to be safe for the future and to develop the business. So I think you need to be at least, first of all, you need to believe in the company, and second, you need to understand in what stage is the company by that time. But I would for sure recommend this experience to anyone that wants this kind of experience. It was very important for me, and yes, I would recommend. So go.
Go sign up. That was the, you know, like the next part. Thank you, Beatrice. And then the last question that will be common, you know, to Paulina and Cambis, and we will start then with Paulina, is how do you see Austrian startups in 10 years?
Wow,
Let's dream.
This dream, the tricky. Well, I still believe that we're gonna be more open. Yeah, it will be more open for talents, especially, you know, due to the now COVID. We will change the way how we work, and it will be more online. So definitely we're gonna have even more diverse teams. Yeah. And yeah, I see more unicorns on the international level which will succeed on the European and the global market. I know it's a lot to do for that, but I am very positive.
Thank you, Paulina. And then the last word from Cambis.
So first of all, a much higher quantity in terms of like startups here in Austria. Right now we have like over 2,000 startups currently. I mean, startups in terms of like a really close definition. Okay, so technological oriented, scaling oriented, and so on. Hardly over like 2,000, and I see a much higher number. Why? Because it gets more mainstream. And not, let's say, just students or people like who come from consulting or whatever, but really like diverse. Okay, that's one thing. Second, more global tech leaders and global hidden champions coming out of startups here from Austria. That's what I'm working on, and we should all work on this, because if you take a look, startups are the only company type, or let's say the company type worldwide, who really create net jobs. Okay, if you take a look to corporates, they create jobs, but it's because they cut jobs and then they create like other positions. But with startups, they really create new jobs. So if you want to focus on job growth, you have to like focus on startups as well. Okay, so more global tech leaders and hidden champions from Austria, either unicorns, zebras, or whatever, or what you can call it. Then a better entrepreneurial education system here in Austria that leads to more entrepreneurs overall. Okay, and when you talk about entrepreneurship education here at schools and universities, the impact will be shown like in 10 years. So we have to work on this right now, okay, to see the impact in 10 years. So this is something I think is very, very important. And last, a higher concentration in terms of like collaboration between startups, SMEs, corporates, the public side, the public administration, and so on. So much more like a mix within the innovation ecosystem, because then in the end, this will create much better solutions for all of us. This is what I see, hopefully. Let's see what will happen.
Thank you, Kevis, for those last words. And yeah, I just wanted, first of all, to thank Beatrice, Paulina, and Kambis, for being with us and actually kindly answering, our questions. I think that all of the answers actually provide a lot of values to our dear delegates. And yeah, and I will thank as well, all the delegates, for your questions. Actually, half of them came, from them. So big up, to them. And yeah, that's will conclude, this panel discussion. We are, from our side, interested in feedback. So don't hesitate to send us an email on how the conversation went, what are the topics, and of course, if you are interested in similar events in the future. So yeah, that's it from myself. For me, I was extremely grateful, to have hosted, this discussion. And now, then I will give back the mic to Lee.